Hello, welcome to the stream. Oh, it has been a day. It has been a day, and I am very happy to be here with you guys right now. Today, like the thumbnail said, I'm trying arch or arches, whichever you prefer. I'm not going to argue. I kind of go back and forth between the two sometimes, whichever slips out. But I'm trying it for the first time today. Now, I've had some of their paper for a while, but I've been putting off using it. And we're going to discuss why that is today, as well as check out my brand new block that I made. If you watched the video that I just put out on Monday, it was how I make my watercolor blocks using a press that Lou made me. And I have made a couple blocks with my B watercolor paper. This one was the 100% cotton 90 pound B watercolor paper. And then this one was the 140 pound 100% cotton paper. Hello, Tara Giblin and Fly Me to the Moon. So I made both of those, and I showed you in that video that I was going to do one with arch. Well, I did it, and I'm really excited. Let me just, I've got this like fine balancing act going on over here beside me. So here is my press, and you see it's still in there. I had just finished up, I think it was yesterday. I finished gluing the sides. So today I'm going to remove this from my press and show you what exactly I did. And I'm going to try it. So I have not tried this yet because it seems that this is pretty much the standard that everybody judges their watercolor paper up against, right? It's, you know, I've fellow YouTubers that I watch, I'll see them talk about it and they're like, well, this compared to arch, or this, you know, this compared to arches, and how they are. So hi Dylan, everybody's kind of dropping in. Do drop me a comment when you come in, say hello. I love to see everybody chatting in the comments. So I kept putting off using it because I wanted to try some other watercolor papers, and I wanted to judge those on their own merit, not up against something else that, you know, was kind of the gold standard, or seemed. That's my feeling of how this paper is perceived by so many. Like, this is the standard to which all others are compared. Is that hype? Is it? I don't know. Again, haven't tried it yet. I also got a couple new papers in, and I really thought about using those first and kind of sticking with that. I'm going to try all the papers first, and then I'm going to try this. And I was like, no. I was too excited to make the block, so I did it, and I'm going to just go ahead and give it a try. And yeah, then like everybody else, I guess we'll see if I too am like comparing all others to this particular paper. Now, I've heard a lot of artists that there are plenty of quality. I'm like unscrewing the press as I'm talking to you. But I've heard of a lot of other artists talking about, you know, good quality other papers, like Saunders Waterford, or, you know, there's a few. That's just one that came to mind. And yeah, Dylan Creative Arts just put a good point in the chat. Says, my problem is I don't want to just practice on good, expensive paper. And that's how I felt. I was like, oh, I don't want to waste it. And I absolutely understand how we can feel that way. Like we're wasting it if we are, you know, I keep air quotes, right? Like we're wasting it. That's what we perceive, that we're wasting the paper because it's so much more expensive. And we don't want to waste those hard earned dollars that we've spent on our good paper for just, practicing our art or practicing techniques. And I totally understand that. And that's part of why I have not tried this paper yet. You guys know I use it all the time here on the channel, is the B paper. Now this comes in loose sheets. Everything is linked in the description below. Everything I show you today is linked below. So these come in loose sheets. I get them in the 6x9 size. I really wanted something that, like, I wanted them together. I wanted to not have to keep taping them to a board every time I use them. I didn't want to have to stretch them. There were so many reasons. This is only 90 pounds. This one, you see the pictures are different. So when you're looking, if you see the images, just know that as of right now, this one is 140 pounds. This one, no, excuse me. I have my hands on the wrong one. This is 90 pounds. This is 140. Yeah, it says right there, 90. So this is the 90. It's like more lightweight. Now this would warp. I liked the paper, but yes, it would warp. Once I put this into block form, I found that I wasn't having as much problem. This is one of the paintings I did on this 90-pound paper. This is not super thick. It's 90 pounds, right? It's some thin paper, but look at, I didn't straighten this out. This was taken straight off the block. And it made that 90 pound, which is much more affordable, cotton paper really stand up to all the water and stuff that I like to throw at it. Now, it's 90 pounds. I'm not going to do some hard scrubbing on this or, you know what I mean? Like, I know it has its limits. So let's just put that, out there. Obviously, I know it has its limits. That said, I have really appreciated the B watercolor paper. So I kept using that because whether it was the 140 pound or the 90 pound, it was affordable. And it was affordable cotton paper. I think next week, the other two papers that I just got in, which are also 100% cotton, I'm going to try those out with you next week. And there's some interesting stuff about those. I'm not going to, no spoilers. You have to tune in again next week. I'll see you same bat time, same my channel. Hello, Jacqueline. And hi, Joseph. Joseph is here. So, yeah, those papers, I don't mind if I'm showing you some different technique. And like we did, some birch trees last week, and I showed you the technique with using the little like this or pieces of like an old credit card. This is going to end up in the trash. I'll probably cut this off and I'll use this part for something else. Sure. But this was cotton paper and it was practice, and I'm probably going to toss it. My feelings weren't hurt because it wasn't a fortune for that paper. You know what I mean? I wasn't heavily invested monetarily in that paper. So I definitely get if you're feeling like a couple weeks ago, like I just picked up watercolors after encouragement from a family member to give them a try. And that was in 2019. It has not been a long journey. And you guys know I like to experiment and play with things. I have found watercolors that I absolutely love. No secret there. I have found some that I don't like. And I found papers that I don't like and some that I do. Perfect example. And many people like it and think it's fine and think it's great for practice and actually recommend it. Other artists here on YouTube. And that's okay. I disagree, and that's okay. Because I think that we all paint differently, we all create differently, and so we're all going to have different opinions of some of the same things. But the Canson XL watercolor paper, you guys know I hate that. I bought a ton of it when I was first starting. I have so much of that paper, and I'll use it for swatching or playing or trying new ideas, and I'll use it for that, but I'm not going to use it to create anything serious on. But you know, if some masterpiece should come out of it, I wouldn't be afraid to, it's still archival. I wouldn't be afraid to use or sell that piece of work just because it was on a cellulose paper that I don't normally care to use. You see what I'm saying? So I don't say, never say never or always, right? Like that's one of the mottos that I have. Like never say, don't never say, and I just say never, but don't say never or always, because there are going to be exceptions to every rule. And are they rules or mere guidelines? So I get that. But then I tried the bee inspired paper, which Lindsay had recommended. And that is also a less expensive. And actually, I think now the cost of the Canson XL has gone up. And I think that bee inspired, it's also linked in the description below. You can get it at your local Walmart. So if you have a Walmart store near you, you can usually go in. Well, it seems to be sold out a lot when I go to get it, but you can get that at Walmart. You can order at Walmart online, which is what the link will take you to below. It's 50 sheets in one pad, which I happen to have right here. So it looks like this. There's 50 sheets in here. As you can see, I've used probably half of this one. I will be ordering another one soon because I love playing and testing things on this paper. Now, a cellulose or wood pulp paper is gonna react very different than a cotton paper. And I'm definitely, the more I use cotton papers, I am finally absolutely understanding, you know, everybody's love of cotton. And yeah, it's definitely a level up. I don't want to necessarily say it's a game changer. I mean, your art is your art. Your ability is your ability as you improve those skills. But having that paper, I think, definitely has helped me improve my skills. So it didn't magically make me a great painter overnight, but you know what I'm saying? It helps. So our tools improving as we improve, like they kind of build on each other. So let's get down so you can see the desk so I can get this out of here and move my press. Let's check it out. All right, so my press is sitting here on the desk and I'm just going, I've already loosened it. You heard me, I was loosening up the screws, and we're going to pull that out. And there's our paper. Let me just set this aside. I've got to have Lou fix this for me because I told him, like, I think that the wood as it had set is like swelled, and it's like really hard for me to get these up and manipulate the two pieces very well. So he's got some adjustments to do. This is his prototype, but I have loved it. And as soon as he gets his new shop finished, he is in the middle of an upgrade of his workspace. He has the materials set to make more of those, and I might be able to get him to make some that will be for sale. If that is something that you might be interested in, definitely, whether you're watching this live or on a replay, drop me a comment and let me know, because he pays attention. Pays attention to the streams, and he pays attention to some of the comments down there, and I will definitely guide him to them. And we could probably get him to make more of those if there's others who would like one. Okay, so what I just did was was just folding the top because this was a pad, 9 by 12 inch, which is what I have linked that in the description. And I decided I've been doing a lot of work on these, which is a 6 by 9 size. So I've been doing a lot of work with these lately, and I like the size for when we're doing stuff here on YouTube, right? We can do quick projects with that. I could work bigger. I could work on the 9 by 12, and who knows, maybe soon I'll start stepping up to bigger projects. As I get faster, I'm sure my projects will get bigger. So this here, I went through and I cut each sheet in half because this is 12 by 9. So now I have 6 by 9. The backer board from this pad, because it was a pad that I purchased, not a block, I cut that in half as well. So it's missing. And you'll see here, I'll talk about this in a second. If you've seen the other video that I released on Tuesday, you know what that is. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just creasing where it folds here because I'm going to want to protect my block when I store it. So and I could cut this if I wanted to, but in keeping with all the information, I'm just going to bend it so that it completely folds over. There we go. There. So now I have a 6 by 9 block of Arches watercolor paper, and this is of course the cold press. So let's take a look. This here, see, I like that because I like to kind of, the way that works now that I folded that over, I like to work when my block slightly elevated. Now that slightly elevates that. It's probably about about a 15-degree angle. It's perfect. I have put the glue, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you missed the other video, it's on my channel. I released it on Monday, where I DIY'd my own watercolor blocks. I used this here, the Pad and Book Compound by Line Code. This is archival. You have nothing to worry about using this to create your blocks. As I shared in that video, I always tape off one portion. And let's go ahead and remove that tape. And the first thing I will say, just like touching the surface of this, the texture of this cold press, I might have to heat it up. It's not wanting to just peel so easily for me. It's been on here for a little while because I was not quick with making this. I would just kind of like, I would glue one side and I would just set it aside and not think about it for a while. I'm going to warm this up with my heat tool. So I'm going to mute you for just a moment. Okay. I'm pretty sure I said hello to Jacqueline. If not, hi, Jacqueline. It's good to see you here again. All right. Normally I have no issues when I paint my glue, and I don't know why this tape is wanting to be so stubborn. Probably because I decided, hey, I'll just do this live, right? And we all know that when it's live, anything can happen. And sometimes does. Okay, there we go. Where it's starting to come along. I just don't want to damage any of my paper, so just taking it nice and slow. Okay. So there we go. So now by that little taped off area, and I don't know if you guys can see, I don't want to focus. Yeah, see the lines? So there's all the, it's been glued, but right here is not. And all I have to do is just take a little instrument, go in between there and lift the one sheet up, and it'll come right off my block. Just like any other block. So, first things first. The texture. It's definitely different. This is definitely different. The block of the 140 pound of the B cotton watercolor paper. This is also cold pressed, but it has a smoother texture than this does, for sure. So the texture is definitely different. And I did hear that the texture in the cold press was going to be different from some of the other ones that I have shared. So there are a few things that I want to try. I'm going to take you full screen on the desk for a moment. One of the things that I want to try is to see how does the arch hold up to, say, my masking fluid, drawing gum. If you hear that, I have a couple different. I have a Daniel Smith one as well. You hear that? So this is my Winsor Newton masking fluid, the PBO drawing gum, different masking fluid. Now I'm not sure. It's hard to read. I'm not sure what the Winsor Newton one is made of, but I will draw your attention to the fact that if you're allergic to latex, this one is latex. So if you have a latex allergy, this is probably not the masking for you. Again, I'm not sure. I have to get the glasses to see if that says, or if I can find it on there. Yeah, it contains natural rubber latex. So this as well. So if you have latex allergies, just know masking fluid, it's probably not for you. Next thing, you'll hear that sound that's in mine. When I use masking fluid, I put some of these like little glass beads. I have some linked below, but you can get these like at your local dollar store usually. But I take those as I'm using my masking up and I put them in the bottle. The reason is when I put them in the bottle, as I open this carefully, it keeps my masking fluid right up to the top. Now, this could actually probably use a couple more now because I've used that a little bit. I used that when I was doing this piece, I used masking. And I know that like some people, I think it's like either a love or a hate relationship with masking, I think, for a lot of people. So you see, I just dropped one in and I'm going to drop one more. It's right to the top again. So I do that because that keeps the air out of my masking and it lets me sometimes, like this one is blue, which I like because then I can see where it is, and I'm just going to screw this back down so I can turn this over again. And sometimes that color, the pigment like that's in it, like settles in the bottom. Now I've only had one instance where the blue masking left like colored marks on a paper before. I really want to try that out, and I definitely recommend that when you're trying a new paper, if you use masking, don't wait till you're doing your, masterpiece to try it out. Because if everything else turns out wonderful and then you take that masking off and it ruins your paper or it doesn't come off cleanly, you're going to be heartbroken. So always test your masking fluid on the surface you're going to use it on prior to doing that big work of art. Now this one I will say comes, this is the 250 ml bottle. So you see the size of that in my hand. I have that linked below. It also comes in a 45 ml bottle, which is a small one, so much smaller. Now, I have found that when I keep the glass beads in my masking fluid lasts, well, I can use it all up. And then when it's done, I could just take those beads, dump them out like on a butcher tray or on, a pallet or just a plate or whatever. Let them dry and just rub. You can just rub the masking right off of them and you can use them again. So it's not like you're always having to buy them. Sure, you could toss them if you wanted to, but we're trying to be conscious of what we're wasting. That's a way that you can do it and reuse them. Now it also comes, like I said, the 45 ml, the 250, and you can get it in pens like this. This one, which comes with has a spare nib in the cap. And this is very fine. This is a 0.7 millimeter. So this is great if you're masking fine details and you want to just put that in certain spots. I do like these pens. I have another one, which is made by, this one I didn't link in the description below because I wasn't planning on showing it, but just so you know, I have another one, and this one I also like. This is a 2 millimeter nib, so it's larger. This is 0.7. This is a 2. They also make, this same brand, they also make a 4 millimeter, so it's thicker. So there's quite a few options there. And again, it's like love-hate, right? Some people love to use masking and others like, oh, I won't use that. And hello, Starving Artist Collective. No judgment here. If you like to use masking or you don't like to use masking, I think it is definitely a personal preference. But I want to know how this is going to work with the harsh paper. I'm expecting just fine. So I'm thinking of this piece that I did before. I'm going to do something similar. Now, here's a great tip for you, because one of the ways that you can get the, like that splash, that eruption of water from a wave is like this. So I've got my masking fluid is open. Now, another benefit to it being full like this after putting the beads in, I can take, and this is just a piece of kitchen towel, kitchen roll, paper towel, whichever you call it, where you're located. I can take this, right? I'm just scrunching it up of my masking, right? So now it's on my towel, and I can come in and now dab that on my paper. Okay. You see it gets a little darker. As it starts to dry, it's going to get a little darker. Now, I don't want to hit this with, I'm just getting a little bit more on here. I don't want to hit this with any kind of heat tool or dryer. I want to let this dry on its own. Applying heat can cause it to bond to your paper in a way that you're not going to get it off so easy. This I'm going to get rid of. And I'm going to put the lid back on my masking. And see, it's still pretty much full to the top. So I don't need to add a bead. I just let that be. Screw that on there. Okay. So I need to let this dry. While that's drying, I thought that maybe... Thanks. Starving commented on my manicure. Yeah, I've been trying to do something different like each week. Because I am like a stickler for chipped polish. That's definitely not something that I don't think many people discuss, but that's one thing that is definitely a big, I will not watch a video if the nails and the close-up hands I am watching is like full of chipped polish, because I find it distracting and I don't like it. Anyhow, yeah, it's funny because I've had mine before and it would chipped, and I was like, I can't go live now. I can't go record a video. He's like, why? I'm like, my nails are horrible. Nobody wants to look at this. But anyways, it's just one of those quirky things, I guess. So anyhow, we're going to let this dry. But while it's drying, one of the things that I thought we could do, and today I have my Daniel Smith paints, and sitting over here next to me, I have this right now houses my QoR watercolors. So I don't have a lot of QoR watercolors, but I don't feel that I need a lot of these watercolors. I'm sure there's plenty of others I would love to have, but for right now, these are the ones that I have. I think I've talked about that before, why I've kind of stuck with that. This is one, I know I did a video for patrons, but this is a set I definitely recommend. This is the QoR introductory set plus 2 other colors. And those 2 other colors were just convenience ones that I chose. Absolutely are not necessary. So if these are certainly ones that I would recommend. However, as we're going to see, those like to take off. And that's one of the things I want to know. How do they take off on Arch? Because I love all the whooshiness of watercolor, and especially QoR. Still a little tacky. So one of the things I thought we would do is we're going to compare like as close as apples to apples as we can get. So this is the 140-pound B cotton, 100% cotton watercolor paper. So if I take this and the Arch or Arches, I'm probably just going to say Arch because that's what I tend to call it most often. So anyways, if we take these and compare, I want to know, are my colors more vibrant? Because I've heard some people say that the colors are more vibrant on this paper. I don't know. Or just colors are more vibrant on cotton paper. I don't know, but I've got to let this dry for a bit. So what I want to do is just put a few colors down. I'm just going to go with like our primaries up here so that we can see, and then we'll do the same primaries on another piece of this later, and we'll compare the two. Okay. Let's see. So this right now, we're on the B, and I need to give these a quick, we're going to give these a quick spritz because I'm going to get them wet. I definitely recommend priming your watercolors. So that's what I call priming my watercolors. I just wet that. Let's see, hands are clear, but the palette and paper are a bit blurry. My palette and my paper are a bit blurry at the moment. It could just be because they're white. See if I can't get my camera to definitely, yeah, it's focusing at this distance. So hopefully that will work. And two, hopefully things are not all okay. I'm seeing clear for other people, so it may just be D-Lin on D-Lin's side. Oh, I forgot a couple. These are also Daniel Smith. Just so let's see, we have Quinn Rose. This is Quinn Burnt Orange, Sepia, and Raw Umber. They're just ones that aren't in this palette, and I'm reevaluating some of my choices that are in this palette. So some might be changing because I know there's been so many times I've used this palette and I was really wanting Umber and Sepia and I didn't have it. So yeah. All right. And I'm going to prime my QoR colors because I know we're going to use those. Okay. Everything is wet. Now, I'm pretty sure. So let me just get just manipulating a few things on the desk here. All right. If I'm mixing in here, it's probably my QoR colors, and I'll have Daniel Smith mixing on this palette. Not that you can't mix them on the same palette. You absolutely can. They don't have to be kept separate. You can intermingle your watercolors and they will be just fine. They like working together. Okay. Saunders, I see you guys talking about Saunders Waterford paper. I've tried the Saunders Waterford before as well. I got a sample of it in one of the art boxes and I really liked it. In fact, I want to compare a lot of these cotton papers. I probably wouldn't do that live. I would probably do a comprehensive video that I could just release as like a video on demand type format. But okay, you're going to see me bounce back and forth because not only do I have to let this masking dry, then I have to let the paper dry before I can remove it. So I'm just checking because as soon as this is dry, and you see how that's gotten darker, I can definitely see everywhere that I've put that masking. And that's going to preserve all of those white areas of my paper. And yeah, I can always use, of course, the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White if I need to add extra white elsewhere. But I'm going to get into painting this one. I'm going to do we're going to do a few things today. I really want to test out this paper and give a good first impression. Okay, so while I'm just waiting for that to set, I just want to get these on here. I've got my silver black velvet brushes. It's a little drama in my Members Mark Mimic brushes at the moment. So I messaged Lindsay to get her opinion to see if it's happened to her. I noticed because I've been painting with these a lot and I've recommended these brushes to you guys. And so because all of a sudden I was having an issue, I'm really trying to pay attention to these and figure it out. I haven't reached out to the brush maker yet, but my 6 round right now it's wet. When I start painting with this, it's like the tip is broken. What I mean by the tip is broken on my brush is when I start to paint with this, and I noticed it when I was doing, oh my gosh, where did it just go? I moved it. But anyways, I was just painting. I shared it on social media. There it is. When I was painting this guy right here. When I was painting this, I was using that brush on the details. And when you're doing some of these little tiny fine lines, your point needs to be where your point needs to be. And my point was broken. So when I was trying to make my brush strokes, you know, you hold your brush and you think your point's going to be one place and you go to set your brush down. But the tip of it was like bent slightly. And so it wasn't working where they were. You know what I mean? It wasn't like where it should have been. It shouldn't be, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but it like comes and then it bends. The tip is broken. I am not hard on my brushes. My brush is always dry like this. You know, I use the paint pucks, and once I rinse them, I click them in the sides. That's how they dry. My tips are always formed. I leave them, if they're down, they're lying sideways. Like I never leave one in. If you left one in a pot of water, that could break your tip. Like that could make it bend over. I don't do that. Because let's face it, brushes are expensive. I want mine to last as long as I can. So anyhow, and if that's something that's going, I don't know if it's just a fluke, if it's that brush, it hasn't happened with others. This is one of my newer ones. I know that because it has a light blue handle. My original ones had more of a gray handle, if you can see the difference there in the colors. So I know this is one of my newer ones. It's a size I didn't have before. And again, I don't know if it's just a fluke with that brush. I haven't been using it that long. Just recently in these past few weeks. I don't know. If that's what's going to happen to them after a few weeks of use, then I wouldn't recommend. If they've all changed like that, then I wouldn't recommend them. If that's just a fluke with that brush, then I would definitely still recommend them. So until I know what's going on, I don't want to keep pushing, you know, those brushes as a great alternative for you guys. I want to know for sure. So today I have my silver black velvet, my number 6 round, and I have my 3/4. You may see me use some of the other Mimic brushes, and that's just because I'm not having any issues with them. And the more I use them, the more I'm going to find out, are they having a problem as well, so that I can keep you informed. Okay, I'm just going to do 3 primaries here, and I'm going to do the same 3 primaries on the arch paper next. So yeah, I agree. Starving Artist Collective says QoR watercolors and silver black brushes. They're such fun together. I love my silver black velvet brushes. These are listed below. So, and it's a set, and it comes with a size 1, a size 8 round, and a 3/4. The set that I got, the 3/4 oval wash. Just that set alone. It's all you really, you could do unlimited things with just those 3 brushes. Okay, but today I have a number 6, and you see how it's tiny. It's so tiny. But I may grab my 8. I want a bigger round. I don't have it yet because they're so expensive, and I think it's going to go on my Christmas list this year, but that is my number 8. So look at the difference between an 8 and a 6. You just get that wet so you can see. That's the difference between their 8 and their 6. I really wouldn't need much smaller than that 6. I mean, I do have them. I have a 2, a 0, a script liner. But again, we live and learn. Earlier in my journey, I thought I need small brushes for details. And then I found out, oh, wow, with the points these things have, no, I don't. Okay, so we're going to take... We're going to take some Pyro Red, and I am just going to put that up here. Again, this is just so I'm going to do this on a piece of the arch once I paint that other painting, and we'll compare these at the end. So that is going to be, let me just clean that one. Pyro Red. We're going to take a Hansa Yellow Medium. This guy. Because I want to know. And this is just straight from the palette because I want, all the color. So not watered down. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 14 round. I was looking at either a 14 or a 16 as my next silver black velvet brush. So I'm right there with you, Starving. Okay, and then I'm going to take Phthalo Blue. So I've chosen these 3 colors because I think these are definitely some vivid colors. Look at that Phthalo Blue. And actually this one I'm going to do, I have a lot of paint on that brush. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, and I'll do the other one exactly the same way. I just want to see some of that nice phthalo, the lighter value of that color. Such a beautiful color. There we go. Okay. So later we're going to come back and we're going to look at these and we're going to see, is it more vibrant on one than the other? Right now, whether you're live or watching this on the replay, drop me a comment. Do you think it will be more vivid on the arch paper than the B100% cotton paper? Or is it just because it's cotton alone, it's going to be the same? I don't know, but we'll see. Okay, setting that aside and grabbing the block that I made, let's have some fun. Now, I'm going to do something very similar to this. Very similar. Because this was the 90-pound 100% cotton B paper. I don't remember all of my colors exactly. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, patrons that are here, I painted this QoR with my QoR watercolors. So I'm going to use my QoR watercolors. and I'll do a very similar painting. This is not going to take very long, but we will do it in stages. So I'm going to turn this upside down because actually I'm going to turn it upside down in a minute, but not yet. This is probably from that painting, that blue that's right there. I think that's what I mixed up when I did my darker values. Okay, so grabbing my 3/4 oval wash, get that wet, and pretty sure that was ultramarine. Mix that up. I'm mixing that up slightly off camera. Yeah, we'll just kind of turn them sideways so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so the ultramarine. That's the only thing about this oval wash is when you're trying to get the paint out of a half pan, I'm always like so careful because I don't want to dig in there because I'm like, I don't want to damage my brush. But you see the size, like compared to a half pan, or if I go at a half pan, it's pretty large. So yeah, okay. And I'm going to take a little bit of the Payne's Gray. That was a lot of it. I said a little bit, but that's all right. I just want to kind of neutralize that. I'm just going to bring some more water in because I want a lighter value. All right. Now you ready? Let's grab. We'll do the old ruler trick here. Right. And I'm going to just come in, like if I can see over it. Just running my paintbrush along my ruler. It gives me a nice straight horizon line. I am not going to mind. This is my water. If I leave some white space, it's fine, right? Don't worry about that at all. I just dipped my brush in my water slightly, just the very point of it, because I am just lightening my value as I come forward. I'm going to have a rock about here. I can come back in and add more of my water around that rock once I get that painted. And actually, if this is light, I can just paint right through because I can paint that rock over this. So this is my rock is going to be a little further inward than the other one was. All right, just letting it be, just like that. Okay, let's do the sky. For my sky and the other one, I actually brought in a touch. I'm just going to put the color I have here, a touch of phthalo. That was a big touch. There we go. And I'm going to make it light. So if you want, that's a lot. Phthalo, strong color. All right. If you want your watercolors to be lighter, we don't add white, we add more water. Okay. And my darkest color I'm going to want, just getting it off the darkest color I'm going to want at the top. And I'm going to want it to get lighter as it meets my horizon. So starting here, just dipping in water. Again, I'm only putting, when I say I'm dipping in water, I'm only putting just that little tip into the water. That's all I'm doing. Dipping it again. There was a lot. I'm going to actually rinse this brush. I dipped too far. I had way too much water on my brush. Way more than I wanted. There we go. Now, I will say that immediately, like the way that blended, or the way I was able to continue blending, love it. What a nice, smooth, even though that sat for a moment, really smooth, beautiful transition. I'm very impressed, but then again, you guys probably, those of you who have tried it are like, duh. and that's okay. I like it. Look, you see this? I'm getting that pushback. Look at that bloom that I'm getting right now. And that is because when I brought that water, that first color in, I came back with a bit more water there. I'm not so much a fan of that, but it's not a big deal because all I have to do, right? If I don't want that, I just go over it again. Mixing up my blue. And again, when I do this, I'm just trying to like keep those white spaces. I liked the white spaces that I had. There we go. Now, as I go down, I can just kind of skip around and leave some areas lighter than others, and that's going to be fine. Painting right off. I actually wanted to tape the edges of this, and I forgot, because this is the very first page in my block, which means that some of the glue for me gluing it might have gotten on the very, like down here at the bottom, it has gotten on the edge, and you're going to see that when I paint the sand. It's fine. However, if I didn't want to see that, I could have taped the edge off. And if I would have just taped the edge off, then we wouldn't have, you wouldn't even have known. All right, so I am definitely finding that it still wants to show up and I don't want to scrub. Well, I mean, I could scrub because it would kind of give me an idea. I don't tend to like to scrub too much with these brushes because this is my brush. This is my favorite. I don't want to beat up on it. All right, we're just going to let that be because water comes in layers. And look, it's starting to bleed up here because I let them touch. First thing right out the gate that I can tell you, I could have done that on my B paper, the way that was setting, and it wouldn't have pushed up into it. So one, it's staying wet longer, for sure. It's not drying as fast as my other one. I can appreciate that. I'm definitely I'm not gonna let it get me down. It's fine. I just don't want to see lines spreading up. Look at that. And it's like I'm lifting the color. Again, this is not something I would normally do. Normally I would just leave it be. And I had to mess with it. But that's fine. It's fine. I think that's what I need on a shirt. It's fine. Right? Just experiment with it. It's fine. I'm not upset about that. Okay. How about put some sand in there? So for the sand, I'm going to take, you're going to see that I'll use this brush for quite a bit. I could use my size 8, or even grab my 12 round on my Mimic brushes. It would be fine, but we're just going to And this is sepia. We're just going to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to take my sepia, and I want there's plenty of water in my brush. So you see right there, like this is very watered down. And that's going to give us, and I love the texture. I'm loving the texture of this paper. I look at like the dry brushing that you can get, and I'm going to just really work that to my advantage because this is the edge of the water. And you see where it's staying white right here? That's because my glue's there. And the glue got on this edge. If I taped that first sheet off with a border, you guys never would have even known it was on there. It's not going to negatively affect anything else about it. It's just there. And it's fine. If I framed this, then it would be, you wouldn't see that anyway. Like there would be a mat around it. These are great. This size is great because you can get an 8x10 frame, a 5x7 with a 5x7 mat. So it's 5x7 opening to 8x10 on its edges. Put this in, tape it into, your mat where you want it. And that's going to make beautiful, like just, you could hang up an 8x10 picture frame with the 5x7, painting inside that you did on the 6x9. But just know that means you're going to lose an inch in on each side. So you want to make sure that if you're planning on doing that, that you're keeping your subject where it needs to be. So, and when you're signing, that you're signing within, that space, because it'll be a half an inch that you'll lose on the top and the bottom, and then a full inch on each side, because this is 6x9 and you'd just be 5x7. So you would just want to keep that in mind. Like I'd want to sign about here if I was worried about being able to frame this as a 5x7. All right. Okay. So I am seeing a little bit of bloom, like a little bit of where that water came up right there. And again, this is just me messing with stuff I probably shouldn't mess with, but I am finding it very interesting to see, how the paper's reacting. Up near my water, I'm going to want that darker. So let's take my sepia again. We're going to darken this up. So I don't have as much water in my brush this time. This is definitely going to be a darker value. And I'm just going to bring it. And again, if I get some of the texture of the paper, not worried about that at all. I'll incorporate that in with the seafoam. Okay, so that's going to be like my wet sand. That's where it's receding. This still feels damp, so I'm really curious to see if this becomes a smoother line. Right now it's kind of a hard line, which I don't want. And normally on the B paper, I would come back like on this. I came back and worked that edge to soften it for, when they blended through. I'm not doing that on this one because I want to know, as the way that my paper feels right now, is that going to kind of feather out all on its own? Knowing how this looked and seeing what that did at my horizon line, it's possible. And this is what you have to do with new paper, right? We just have to explore, try it out, and just see how does it react compared to what you're used to. So now I'm going to rinse my brush out, only because it's really dry and I need more water in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have really needed to rinse it. I could have just gone right into my umber, but I am going to go into my umber. And I'm going to darken this up a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, these are both PBR7. I could be wrong. I don't have the tubes and I don't have it written down in front of me. But the umber is darker. All right. And I'm going to take right at the very edge. This is where my, like the under of where my wave's going to be. And I'm just going to throw that in there. Here we go. And again, I'm hoping that that will kind of transition and leave me a softer line. But there we go. We're starting to see that wave coming on shore. As far as this rock goes, I did that very wet and wet last time, and I've got to let this dry now. Once this dries, I'm able to come back. I can't hit this with heat because, again, there's masking on it. I don't need to bond that to the paper. I don't know how that would react with the Arch paper if I did that. I've seen some people that do heat it to dry things, and it works just fine for them. I never have. I try to be patient. When all that's happening, I try to be patient. So now, the only problem is I can't continue to show you what's going on with this on the block and then come back to it unless I remove it. So I may go ahead and do that. Wow. Yeah, yeah, that was my point, starving. I always hear people talk about Arch like they are the best, right? Like they're the standard to which all others can be compared. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and paint this rock in. Why not? Let's just have at it. Because I'm going to do the rock and its reflection in the water at the same time. And I'm going to try some more experimenting with rock texture. Now, when I did my rock in the painting that's right here behind me, this one, when I first did that, I was like, oh, I don't like it. This is not right. Like, well, everybody else's rocks come out perfect, and mine are just looking like really crazy. And then I let it dry, and I left, and I came back, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I loved it. So trust the process. I think that's what the point I'm getting at. Trust the process. I'm coming in with just water. I have my number 8 round now, and I am just wetting this paper because, and I'm only going to do probably well, I don't know. We'll see if we get one rock or two out of this. Okay. So not only am I going to wet that, I need to wet this down here. I'm trying to decide my best way to do that because after seeing how this has moved, I don't know how it's going to react. I know how my other papers would react, and I would just put the water down and wet it, and that would be that. But I don't want to cause a bloom or a back runner. But you know what? Let's find out. We'll just find out what happens. Why not? I'm not scared. All right. So I'm just going to throw that water. And I'm wetting this over because I want it to slowly kind of feather out. All right. For our rock, I used on the QoR watercolors. I'm just going to put it over here. But this is the Payne's Gray. So let's drop some of that in. Right. Payne's Gray. We'll see how our rock ends up looking. I don't know. I'm going to need some of that in the bottom. Then I'm going to come in with my my burnt sienna. Yes, this one. You guys can't see my color right now. I'm sorry. There it is right there, my burnt sienna. I'm going to put some of that in here. We're going to let that go into the water. Okay. I want more. Oliver twist there. A little bit more of my Payne's Gray. I want it darker, very dark. Right? Dark at the bottom, yes. am not worried about how it spreads there. I have my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I will totally separate the rock from the reflection after. So I'm loving the veining and the spidering that I'm getting going on here. If you don't know if you aren't seeing it so well, right there. But I don't want that. It's a rock, right? I mean, some of that fine, but so I'm not going to worry, because I am going to here maybe a little bit more. I am going to scrape this a bit, so we'll see how that works. Let's get some more burnt sienna in there. All right, that's, I keep rinsing my brush in my clean water. Really want to put some more of that in there. All right, and the top of my rock was more of the dark at the tops and up the side. Just copying what I did on the top down here at the bottom. And now anywhere I don't want, that's kind of, I'm drying my brush, so that's not really wet. I'm just going to kind of blend it. There we go. And let it do its thing. All right, let's grab our scraper. And let me see if I have a smaller piece. I took a whole card and I just cut it up into a bunch. There we go. A bunch of pieces, different shapes and sizes. So I have like small pieces, and I'm going to use some of that. I'm just kind of pull down. Right? And I'm only pulling on where my rock is going to be. Not worried about the reflection part. There we go. It's my rock. Just gonna let it be. That's it. I'm done. Just pulling a little bit of it down, giving it some texture. If I wanted to come back in and put some more of the burnt sienna or whatever, fine, but I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave it. Today is not necessarily all about this painting, but more seeing how the different things react and really getting a first impression of this paper, which is why I chose to kind of repaint a similar scene. Again, I didn't do the two rocks, but a similar scene to what I had here. One thing I didn't do was lift out my sky. I didn't even think to lift that when that was wet, and I'm really seeing some odd marks coming up the way that it's moving on that paper. And I know that's because I went back with a brush that was wet. Put it on, leave it alone, let it dry, wait to do your next layers. Yes, that's the motto of this, or the lesson that I'm learning here. But I'm glutton for punishment. I'm going to grab this is my 12 round from my Mimic brushes. And if this is something that you're watching the painting process and you're like, oh, I like that and I'd love to give that a try, feel free. Feel free to give that a go. And if you do, definitely, share it with me. We're kind of doing it step by step together today. All right, so I'm just going to come in with another layer to my sky. Just getting that all mixed back in there. All right. And the reason that I'm coming back with another layer to my sky is because I want to see if I can lift that out when it's wet and kind of lift out my sunshine like I did on my other one. Okay. There we go. Turning that back around. Let me grab my little sunshine tool here. And let's just see. I'm just pressing and lifting. And there we go. Now I know, now this would have been white had I done that, remembered to do it in the beginning. But I think that lifted out okay. I have like pressed down. I did have this setting so it was holding me up. Just fixing that. There we go. So there's my little sunshine. I can make that whiter if I want to again with this, or let's see just how well it lifts. I've got my number 8 round. I'm gonna clean that off, make sure it's nice and clean. I'm going to dab that so that it's not really, really wet. And let's just see if any more of that lifts out of there. Not really. Not really. Just pressing in the center where I just went over it. But I think it's fine. It's fine. Had I done it in the beginning, I think it would have lifted very well. So, yeah. Okay. I'm liking the reflections I'm getting for my rock. Now this, I can say, didn't really blend and as smoothly as I would have hoped. But let's go back in. All right, still taking my number 8 round. This is where I definitely wish I had like a larger, and that was sepia that we did. Remember that had the umber in it, so I'm just coming back with the sepia. I want it nice and light. And again, I'm just going to start from the bottom and work my way up, and maybe those two will blend a little bit better as I get there. I'm not going to worry about texture. It's just going to add to my sand. So I'm going very lightly with my brush kind of tipped on its side to kind of give me some dry brush effect. The texture of this paper is very, I definitely like it. You see, there wasn't a lot on my palette there. And this is where I want to kind of work that edge and see if I can soften that up. I'm going to go right up to where it was darker. If that also gets softened, that's fine. I love testing new art supplies and trying new things that I know work on other papers or with other watercolors, and seeing, you know, can I get that same result with whatever, you know, new supply it is that I'm using. Just thinning that back down so that I have that nice light color. I don't want a ton of water on my brush. Now I'm just going to pick up, come back in. Just kind of going back and forth over that edge to see, will it soften it? And if it won't, that's okay. Then I've learned that no, at the point that that was at, it was not going to soften, which is, again, is fine. Okay, so far this is coming on pretty well. All right, at this point, I think that if I remove it from the block, okay, it might not dry as flat as it would have had I left it on the block. But I really want to be able to try a few other things with you. So I'm trying to decide. Take it from the block, set it aside, keep going, and then come back to this, because I will put in, remember, this has to be dry for me to remove that masking. So come back in and put the, actually, maybe we'll put, you're just seeing the whole process. You're seeing the whole process like happening here, the whole thought process. All right, this was the color I know I used in that other painting for you know, my waves. Let's just put some of that in beforehand. This will be drying as I do that. I'm not going to be putting a ton of water into the back, so we're just going to go with it. Now I'm going to rest my hand. If I kind of rest my hand this one on this one, kind of keep my hands off the surface, you know, this wet. And it being in the block right now, it's nice because that's elevated too. So it kind of helps me come in and do this. Now to the back, I'm going to want, the further away I am, I'm going to want much thinner lines. And I'm not trying to necessarily go, you know, I'm not trying to paint a line straight across. You'll see my brush kind of skip around. And just put in some waves back here, some movement of that water. Now see, with the other painting I did, I had it coming on like at an angle. This one's coming straight on, so I can just keep working completely left to right. Whereas in that other painting, I had to really pay attention to the spacing in my waves, because back here, they're all going to be really tight together and it's going to be very thin. But as it gets more on shore, that's going to get wider. And so my vanishing point went off this way. It was like over here. It was coming on the shore at an angle. So I had to follow that angle around as I kept making those waves get bigger as they approached breaking on the shore. So you just want, like, if I would have done these and made everything go perfectly straight all the way across, that would not have looked natural, because it doesn't go straight left to right here. It goes like you know, you see my brush is turning, like it goes like this on to the shore. So you want to follow that same perspective. You want to make them get larger as your brush comes around that way. When you're doing a shore that has like that, you know, an angled water coming on an angle. But for this, we're just kind of going to come straight on today because we want to make it all nice and easy. I had hours and hours with patrons when I was doing that one. In fact, I think that was the last studio hangout we had, and it's already time for another. I get to hang out live with patrons tomorrow via Zoom. Now, whether you're a patron that is that has monthly hangouts with me or quarterly hangouts with me, I will see everybody on Zoom tomorrow. I love our Zoom hangouts. Patrons can choose if they want to just text, like watch what's going on. I always share what I'm doing in my studio. And oh, thank you. Cat's Art Pick says, love those shades of blue. I'm using the QoR watercolors for these. So patrons can choose if they want to, everything I'm doing in the studio you see on screen because I share my video. But you don't have to. If you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to share video, nor do you even have to share your voice. That is completely, I say as I start to lose my voice, that is completely up to, it's completely up to you. You can, figured we would switch it up, stop that scrolling on the top. But you can choose to text to chat while you're watching what everybody's creating. You can share video of what you yourself are doing, which is great if you need help with something, because you can share the video and we can see what you're working on. Or if you just want to talk with voice, like you're talking on the phone, you come and hang out. So you get to hang out with a bunch of fellow artists. And that's tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. I love it. We always do it the third Friday of every month. It is in addition to the live chat. I hold a live chat every Friday morning, which is usually texting, although last week, no, it was 2 weeks ago. I surprised patrons and popped in with video on Discord. So if you're part of the patron Discord community, I popped on with live video there, and if patrons wanted to, they could. And that was for patrons of all levels. You didn't have to be on the one of the top 2 tiers. That was like anyone that had access to the Discord community got to do that. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. All right, so you see, I'm not worrying if I get some dry brushing going on, because it's just going to look like sparkle on my water. And I've almost used up all of this color. That I had mixed up before. Yeah, so if Patreon is something that you've considered, and hanging out with us live on Zoom sounds like something you would be interested in, we are doing it tomorrow. And the link for Patreon is let's see, right there next to me, right? Yeah, right next to me, or right below where I am. I just absolutely love painting water. It's one of my favorite things to paint. I used to be very intimidated painting water. And of course, as with anything, the more you do it, the more fun and the better you get at it. And you notice I'm going right over where I had my reflections. I want it to look like, I want a layer on top of that so that it definitely looks like you're looking at the water, the reflection in the water. Oh, I'm definitely liking that. Oh, excellent. Cat's Art picks this. She got a new watercolor set today. What did you get? What did you get? We are all inquiring minds. We want to know. All right, so again, mixing up the colors of my water. I just had the ultramarine blue and Payne's gray so that I could bring that color down just a little bit more muted. I love muted colors. There we go. And you can keep going back as many times as you want to. Painting these. If I get some and it, it looks darker, then of course I will add a little bit of that elsewhere so that I definitely end up with a nice natural transition as we come along. I'm not painting over the whole thing. I am leaving spaces, and that's going to give me my natural, the highlights. We have our sun up here. So you can't hardly see it. You can't see it as well as you can in the other one that I painted, but that's okay. Hi, Teresa. That is okay. We are glad that you're here. All right. So I can definitely say that for some of my first impressions, this is different. It is definitely different. Will it take some getting used to? Oh, absolutely. There are a couple tests that I want to try that as soon as I remove this, we are going to give those a go, and we are going to compare the two. Because again, like I said, I'm going to have to let this dry a little bit. I love the dry brush, the texture that I can get. The texture of this paper is certainly rougher. I'm trying to get some more of that dry brushing right now. I'm just kind of on the side scrubbing by. My brush is very dry. It's a very thirsty brush at the moment. There we go. I just want some more texture in here. Okay. So we kind of get that sparkle as it's coming on to the sand. All right. So I'm going to set this aside. We need to let this kind of dry. Oh, isn't that Mondo Llama? Isn't that Target that sells those? I think Mondo Llama is like a Target brand. Look at that. Cannot wait till we reveal the spray and we get that masking fluid off. This is one time where I can definitely say, using that technique that I just showed you to do this, you get such beautiful, natural looking, that splash, that eruption of the water as it hits that rock. I like it. Okay, I'm going to set this one aside for a minute because the other thing that I want to do, and we're going to do these exactly the same as soon as I remove that from the paper. So again, remember we did our 3 primaries, which we will paint on the arch as well. I'm going to grab another clean water that I have behind me here. And what I'm going to do is with my clean water, again, I'm using my 3/4 oval wash. I'm going to put in, we're going to do this with QoR because I love QoR and how it travels, but I want to know, will it travel further on the arch than it does, that cotton paper versus this cotton paper? We are going to see, because I think that has a lot to do with its sizing as well. So I'm just going to put a stripe of water across here. Again, these are both blocks that I have made, the B cotton watercolor paper and the arch. Now let's go with quinacridone magenta. Yes, let's go with that. So I've got the quinacridone magenta. I'm just going right in. Again, I'm bringing this closer so that you can see. So quinacridone magenta is here. And can I see the line? Yep. All right, here it goes. Right here. All right, we're going to put that in. We're just going to see where it goes and how far it goes. We'll do that same thing. You can see I went all the way to this edge, so it can travel as far as it wants to travel. We're only limited by the moisture on the paper, and look at that spidering. I knew that would be a color that would just take off. The other one we're going to do is let's do phthalo blue. I bet you phthalo blue will take off. All right, so again, my brush is wet, and I'm just going to go back and forth. I'm going to go back into my water again, and I'm just going to do that one more time. Okay. Let's grab phthalo blue. And see where it goes. All right, so those will be the 2 colors that we'll do on the other page. And I'm trying to think of other things that we can compare from one to the other that will kind of give us an idea of the quality. And this might help all of you who use arch already, and maybe you're considering B paper. When you see these comparisons, this might help you decide maybe how close it is to arch or arches, and is that something that maybe you would consider getting the B paper because you like what you see? So this could be doing double duty, although we're getting my first impression of arches paper or arch. Okay, I am definitely, if I can find it, if I have it handy. Well, it might be, wait a second. I'm like trying to look around my desk here. Oh, yes, I do. Perfect. I'm going to show you a trick for another way that you can remove masking. You can use, of course, you can use your finger. I was just looking to see if I had a pickup sitting here on my desk. Every time I want that pickup, I can't find it. And 9 times out of 10, I end up finding out that it's sitting downstairs where it doesn't belong. Because I had it, I was working with it downstairs at one point. I think it's still down there. Anyways, my bookmarks, I think you guys have seen those. I've shared them on social media. This was, I did that one a week ago on Friday. Okay. Yeah, Mandalama is the Target brand. I thought so. Because I have a set of their brushes. I haven't used them yet, but I have a set of their brushes. And although I didn't get them at Target, I think I got them up here. I think I bought them when I saw them at Martin's. And if you're a Mainer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're not, well, it's like a surplus store. And that's their slogan, like, should have bought it when you saw it at Martin's, because if you come back, it's probably not going to be there. But anyways, that's where I got them, but I haven't tried them yet because I was like, where are these? And then I did subsequently find out that they are a Target brand. Okay. I'm just like, oh, I want to be able to take this off. I know this is not dry enough yet. It will be before we're done. Maybe we'll come back to putting in, remind me, and I did not link the Tombow Mono Zero in the comments. I can, but I didn't. But remind me, I'm going to leave it right here. We're going to use that. This is a great way to remove your masking. So you have your eraser out and all the little tiny detail spots. It will help pull your masking right off. Again, I want my paper to be dry. All right. Let's take our Dr. P.H. Martin's. We're going to get some definition here and create the rock and the reflection. We're going to get some separation there. Normally I would do this after, I would do this at the end. Once I have, I'm going to just put some right here in this well. This is my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which I have said numerous times. It's definitely my favorite way to add white highlights to watercolor. For sure. Now, this is not completely dry. Let's just put that caveat out there. This is not completely dry. Normally, I would have my paper 100% dry before I'd come in with the bleed proof white, because if you don't, it's not necessarily bleed proof. It can blend in with the color below it. But if that paper is completely dry, then usually no color is coming through and it's going to stay that very opaque, crisp white. I'm not worried about it right now. So we are just going to, I'm seeing this as, say I have my masking here. So this is going to be like the wave starting to come over. So I'm going to put some in here to just kind of help bring that along. All right. And I just had like a spot of water. That's why it's very important. Like, I don't want, you see, I have blue paint. Now, there's like blue paint on my hand. You want to be careful and not touch your painting. If you have a spot of water, you could end up with a water spot on your painting. So I'm just kind of, my fingers resting like at the edge. There we go. So I just kind of brought that to the end. And then right now that looks much whiter than this, but remember my masking is tinted blue because we're using the Pebeo. Pebeo? Isn't that thing, like you hear some people say it one way and others say it another way. And it does have the marks over the E's, but I digress. You say it however you want. But that has blue color in it. So this is not as bright white as it's going to be. All right. And I am going to work up here a little bit and just kind of bring that taper it down. There we go. All right. And there's some spots where this is like maybe there's a gap in here, but I'm going to want to bridge that gap with the white so that that is going to look like it's all wave coming over, because I know when I remove that masking, that's going to be very white. So I can just put some of that in now. Again, normally I don't do this until the very end, but I definitely wanted, we're working a little different because we want this to dry on its own and not hit that masking with the heat tool, because I want to know, is it going to release cleanly or not? Okay. So where my rock is, let me bring this a little closer to you guys. If you see here, I have some definite definition right here from where I scraped. I want that to be my edge and then my reflection to start down here. So I'm going to just put in the white where I want my water to be resting, you know, where I want my water, and then below that is going to become the reflection. So let's just go ahead and place that in. And I can move it back a little bit if I want to. So now it looks like this part of the rock maybe is coming further forward. You see, I'm just using the very tip of my brush. Push that back. And again, up here, looking at where I want that to be kind of separated. And perhaps I have more. I did not bring the splash over to here, so we're just going to add some more. Water just kind of erupting behind that rock. And maybe a few sprays to kind of connect where the two of those are. There we go. And again, the rest of that's going to get a lot brighter as it goes. So now let's just work on bringing our water on the shore. Right here at the edge, I am definitely going to want it to be whiter. Ooh. I'm not worried about this line. Like I just bumped it and it came forward there when I touched the paper. Don't worry about it. If you have been to the ocean and you watched the way the waves come on, they are they're definitely not a perfect line. And you see, I'm kind of jiggling my hand a little bit like this as I go along, because I don't want a perfect straight line. It's not how water comes on the shore. It's not how it looks. And if I break over some of that darker mark, again, don't worry about it. So I know you guys, I released the video. It was a very quick one of this, the painting that's similar to this. So hopefully you guys are not bored seeing me paint something very similar again, but I thought this was a great way for me to see how this paper reacts compared to, I know, the experience I just had painting that painting. Again, it kind of pushed over. Not going to worry about it. I'm going to roll with it. There we go. And I did like all the foam coming on top. So it looks like it's, you know, pulling out. That's really easy to do. Let's see. I love that's that's definitely my happy place. Cat's Art Picks says she. Oh, there we go. She definitely enjoys happy memories at the shore, and I do too. I certainly do. Okay, grabbing just a tiny bit of water. So you see, I touched that. I got some. It was pretty neat. Look, I had some of the white, Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White floating in there, just because I want to thin this down just a little bit. Because I don't mind if this blends in or is slightly more transparent. Not for this part. We're just going to do a few. I start with, I just pick a zigzag. Or, you know, just kind of a wiggly line. And from there, I go. Right? And I kind of make them connect, pull apart. I just keep working off of that. Because if you ever see the waves like this, the foam like pull back, as it all rushes up to the edge, once it gets there and it starts to pull back, it's almost like it's breaking that up, and it kind of breaks up like almost like a mesh, like a net, as it kind of pulls back. Oh, see, yeah, for Starving Artist Collective, it is spring, and we are heading into fall. I was really having fall vibes earlier about this stream, and then I was like, you know what? I really want to test out this paper. I think I even messaged Tara, and I was like, I'm feeling some fall vibes for today. I wonder what I should do. And then I thought, you know what? I really want, and I saw the block was sitting there. It was just taunting me. And I was like, you haven't taken that out yet. How about if we compare that, and then I'm not ready to give up on summer yet, I guess, because I wanted to paint the water. And you'll see that I'm just kind of starting to like break up my lines, and I think of them like I hold my brush sideways, and I just think like this is that flat surface is pulling out, like this is how it's coming towards me. So you see here, like I'm definitely, because I put a little bit of water with that, it is not as stark white as up here. I'm getting some of that blue coming through. Yeah, but I was like, Tara, I think I have some fall vibes going on. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for fall yet. I'm sure we'll be seeing more fall stuff here soon. And I know it's all over YouTube already. Like so many artists are doing fall stuff. Now see, when I get over the reflections, you're really starting to see that seafoam a little bit more. And you can do as much or as little as you want. I'm going to do a little less than I had before, because I really want to enjoy those reflections coming through. I am loving the reflections in the water. It's definitely something I think I would be painting more of. And I don't know that it has to be summer to enjoy painting the coast. I like going to the coast even in the wintertime. I mean, yeah, it's raw, and it can be very cold here. But still. Yeah, Tara, I didn't want to say anything. No, you didn't misread. I totally was like, yeah, I've got fall vibes going. I was thinking, oh, maybe we'll just test out like colors and compare them on one versus the other, and maybe paint some like leaves and stuff like that. And then I thought, if I'm really gonna know, let me recreate something that I've done. And the thing is, this being the second time I've painted this, and I'm going to grab, now here we go, we're going to get that whooshy drop of white in my water. So I just tapped it in. I just want a little bit more water in this. Not a lot, just a little, so it's not straight from the jar. So you see I already like that's a little bit brighter white right there. That's fine. We don't worry about that. Perhaps there's a wave right here. But what I was saying was I've already painted this. So usually the second time you paint something is even easier than the first time you paint it. And so knowing what I went through on the first one, I thought, you know what, that's going to be a good way to tell this paper in comparison to the B paper I painted it on the first time. Now, mind you, I painted it on the 90 pound. Like I said, that was the 90 pound B watercolor paper. And so far, I can definitely say I'm going to have to use this paper a bit more to get used to it because it definitely reacts different. It stays wet longer. And QoR Picks, I do see your question, and I will get to that one in just a moment. But it definitely, so far, I can say that it seems to stay wet longer. My colors, when wet and wet, are moving a lot easier. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I can't say that it's either, really. It's going to be a matter of how you like to work. So that's definitely, something I would keep in mind in the future. All right, so see, there we go. Our water's kind of pulling back to there, and this is where our wave is kind of crashing all the way across. Well, it crashed here. It would crash back here. I've got some more this is kind of rolling forward. We'll just kind of do it like that. And let that come out. There we go. Yeah. But back here, maybe I want there we go. Some more of a wave back there. I need this to be a little more solid. I am just barely letting my brush, the tip of my brush touch, and I'm just kind of dancing it along the surface of that paper. There we go. Okay, so QoR Picks asked a great question. And she says, I really struggle with painting reflections. Can you give a suggestion how to do that? So the way that I did it here, if I painted that before you popped in, definitely check that out on the replay. For something like this, I just made sure that my colors that were below were very similar and in similar locations to my colors that were above. I painted them wet and wet, and I just kind of let it disperse. Then when coming in and scraping my rock to give my rock texture, I didn't do that on my water because I just wanted the color to kind of disperse in there, if you get where I'm coming from. But if I was doing something like, say I was doing the reflection of trees in water, if my tree, when I paint that, if my tree is going, say my tree is growing like this, its reflection in the water is going to go like this. So it's going to, it's going to be opposite. You're not going to go, oh, here's my tree. It wouldn't be like that. So it would go the opposite, the mirror image. Think of like its mirror image, right? So when you're painting reflections, like keep that in mind. Now, if my tree is slightly, like that, then it's going to be, I'm going to kind of keep them pretty much the same as I go. Um, I was reading a book by, let me share it with you guys. This is not linked in the description, but I don't know if this is still in print. I got mine as a used copy. I love buying used books. And I just say, like, I love buying used books on Amazon if they say that they're in like very good condition. I have yet, knock on wood, I have yet to have a problem if I ordered a book that said it was in very good condition. But this was Terry's Top Watercolor Tips, Terry Harrison. I'm really enjoying some of his books. I'm seeing some repetitive stuff from one to another. Um, but one of the things that he mentions in his book that he does is like when he's doing reflections, he did one where it was a dirt road that had like puddles in the road. He used masking fluid, but what he did was he masked out the dirt part of the road. He left the water part of the road unmasked. So once the masking fluid was dry for what would be dirt, he painted his trees and then painted the reflection in the, what would be the water parts. Then when that all dried, he removes the masking and then he paints in the dirt. And you just have these beautiful reflective puddles. It was gorgeous. It's on my list of things to try. So you're probably going to see me give something like that a go here very soon. But the credit goes to Terry because that is absolutely where I saw it. To pick up that technique. This technique with the that I showed you today with the drawing gum or the masking fluid, and he uses like a sea sponge, but the same difference, right? He uses a natural sea sponge, and that was with a paper towel. You can get the same kind of results. I'm just going to come through here in just a few areas where I have lighter. So if you can see that, like there was already naturally lighter spots and then dark. Where those two meet at the base of the lighter section, I'm just going to throw in a few little highlights as if that were maybe like a little bit of a wave breaking back there. Just the water's rolling and I'm getting a little bit of the white. And then now, as I get further back, I'm not going to so much, unless there's a reef, unless there's something that those waves can crash against, you're not going to see waves happening offshore distance unless there's something for them to break on. Again, whether that be rocks or a reef or something like that. And so back out here, I'm just going to want some sparkle. So I'm just going to do some little dots, right? And my sun is up here, so if I have more in this area, it kind of makes sense. So, Starving asks, more bookbinding videos. Becomes addictive, making your own journals, going to simple bookbinding course this weekend. Ooh, that sounds like fun. Such a soothing and motivating craft. I definitely, if that's something you guys are interested in, drop me a comment. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know in the comments below. Do you want to see more? Because I definitely have plans of making some more, sorry guys, the brain is just like, didn't want to talk and paint at the same time. But I definitely have some more ideas of things that I want to create. So yeah, if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing, I would be happy to hit record as I make some of those. I am really curious or really interested in making like my own watercolor journals or creating some pieces for like plein air painting and stuff like that. So yeah, if that's something you guys are interested in, definitely let me know because I would be happy to hit record. Oh, but Starving, you're going to have to share with us over in the art group what you do because I am really, that sounds exciting. That's something I would really enjoy doing. Okay. I think I'm just going to give my sunshine. This is just with whatever was left on my brush. Right? I'm just giving a little bit of brightness to where my sun is. That's kind of it's a hazy day, right? This is giving the feeling like it's a hazy day and that sun is right there trying to burn through that haze, and that's what we've got. So this is just about dry. We are just about out of time. Let's go ahead and get this masking off, see what we've got, and I will do those. I need to do the test on, and I can take the masking off when it's off the block. So let's do that because we want time to see where our color travels before we have to say goodbye. So I am just going to remove this from my block. I have just inserted my little tool in here, and I am going to, it's that simple. And you can use a letter opener, you can use a palette knife. Right, we're just going to go right around our block. And so you see, it's very, very simple to remove your pages when you create your blocks with the Lineco pad and book compound. There we go. And we are free. Right? We are free from that. And that was just the one page. And now if I had left this on there, it would have finished. You see, like that's where it was open. And I put extra water up there, so it did like move right there. But if this was taped down, that part would be taped. If I like taped off the border, that wouldn't even happen. And if left on the block, see how nice and flat that is? They dry so flat, so flat. All right, so I'm going to set this aside and let this keep drying. We're going to take that masking off in just a moment. But right now, we want to see, are our colors as vibrant? And look at how far that only got to here. I think we're going to quickly be able to tell, is it going to get much further or not with the arch? So let's go ahead and do that test, and then we'll take the masking off, and then we're all done. So I'll probably run over by just a few minutes, which I really didn't want to do today, but that's okay. It's in the name of science, right? Or art. We need to find out. Inquiring minds and all. Okay, so we did, the first color was the Daniel Smith, the Pyro Red. So we're going to go right into our Pyro Red straight from the palette, just like we did before. Right, and we put this right here. We are going just like that. There is not a lot of water on my brush. And there wasn't before either. Now my colors were primed a little bit. I'm just getting a little bit more paint because remember I had primed my colors and they've been sitting here. So let me just give those a little spritz. I want this to be right as fair as we can. Straight out of the palette. All right, so there is our Pyro Red. And don't worry, I know I'm only going to use a little bit on this, but I will cut out the rest of the piece and I'll use it for something else as far as the arch. Because again, like we talked about in the beginning, like not wanting to use our arches because it costs us, and we can't be afraid to use our supplies though. We can't be afraid to use our supplies. I wouldn't necessarily say, you know, use yours for what I'm using it for right this very second, but it also does help to swatch your colors on the paper that you're going to be painting on because they can look quite different, which we're going to find out if it looks any different from this one compared to the B paper. And then the last color was our phthalo blue. All right, let me just make sure I got nice clean water. I don't want to turn that green. And we're going to go into our phthalo blue. And for the phthalo blue, I did the top, which was, you see, I don't have a lot of water on my brush. So you're wanting to get that dry brush. So we did the top. And then I came in with some water for the bottom part. Whoop, I almost dropped a drop of water. Phthalo blue is just so beautiful. I could see you getting some like beautiful gradient blends on this paper. Like this, for sure. I certainly think that the colors, they definitely react. They definitely react different. Okay, next we did our lines. So we're going to do that. And then that was with QoR. So for the QoR, again, we had our Twin Magenta and our Phthalo Blue. So Phthalo Blue and Daniel Smith and Phthalo Blue and QoR. Let's paint our stripes of water on. And then go one more time. All right, so I'm going to come in here with our quinacridone magenta. Let's see where it goes. All right. Then we had, and of course this is, I mean, as scientific as I can possibly make it. I am trying to do them both as close to the same as possible. And then one more. Right there and back. And this time we're going to go into our phthalo blue. Okay. And we are just going to drop that color there and look at it take off. Wow. That's gorgeous. They're so pretty. They're so pretty. But right away I am noticing, I don't know if you guys are noticing, but let me just, this phthalo blue, that burst, you know, how the undercolor, it takes off. It's out to about here. Can we see? And I don't want to tip this because it'll make it run more. But look how far that is already. It's definitely, both of them are traveling. You can see that pink all the way out here. So my core colors are certainly traveling farther on the arches or arch. Let's look at, and I can see it in the Pyro Red. I'm going to put this one underneath because this one is nice and dry. This is our B watercolor paper. Can you see the difference? And again, this is not completely dry, so I know there will still be a little bit of a color shift. And I'd be happy to take pictures of these and share them side by side over in our art group. If you're not a member, either on Facebook or on MeWe, we are in both locations. That information is right here below. It's right there. Join us. It's Exploring Art on either, again, MeWe or Facebook. I can take pictures of these and share them with you once everything is completely dry. But if you see there, they look very close. They are very, very close. Maybe a little bit, just slightly more vibrant in the Pyro Scarlet. But again, it's not completely dry, so I can't jump to that conclusion yet. They're nice and smooth. They're not, I don't know what's going on right here with the phthalo, why it's like puckered up that way. Could just be something that I got on the paper when I touched it before. But I'm seeing this color like all the way to here. It's still, this is still trying to crawl out there. It's beautiful. The colors definitely move on arches better. I like it. That is not a bad thing in my opinion. Good to know. Definitely good to know when you're painting. So let's come back here and see how our masking removes. I'm just going to close up these palettes and set them aside now. While I'm removing the masking, I can't find a pickup. So you're going to see, I can just take this eraser and come in, and anywhere that I see that masking, look how easily. I am not scrubbing hard. I am not scrubbing hard. I am just gently going over where I put that masking. Right? Once it starts to come up, I mean, I can do it that way, or I could, you can roll it with your finger. You can use a pickup. I do have the rubber pickups, which again, it's just not, I have like multiple of them. And right now, I don't know where. I know there's one sitting right downstairs, but right next to my chair. I like playing with masking. I know there are some artists that absolutely do not like masking, but in certain situations, I like it. So there we go. See, and that just starts to come right off. It is removing very easily. This masking fluid removed, I almost want to say it removed easier off the B paper. But this is not difficult to remove at all. And I mean, I'm pressing so lightly that it's not even really making a mark on my eraser. Like, I'm not wearing down my eraser while I'm doing this. It's just grabbing the edge of that masking and it just starts to lift it. So anytime you have like those fine details, you can use like the eraser. See that? That is just coming right off of there. And I went ahead and made sure that when I put my rock in, that I had some of that water splashing over my rock. Now that's something that the last time I didn't do, and I wish I had. Like my rock, I had to paint in the splashes because it just kind of went like this. And I thought, oh, you know what? If some of that kind of splashed over, that would look very, very realistic. So again, we can just rub our finger over it and remove it. See those fine marks here? It looks like I've got that spray going on, and I would come back through, not in the interest of time today, I'm not going to do it today. But I would come back through, and if I do mess with this a little bit more, I will take a picture and I will post it in the art group. But like I would come back in and put some shadow in here and not just leave this all white. I did that on this one. You can see here, like I actually painted in some shadow to kind of give more depth to that foam spray. This was just for, the purpose of this was to compare, one, how does the masking remove? And I will say that when done lightly and applied with the, see, you can definitely remove it with your finger. A pickup makes this a little faster, but when applied lightly with the kitchen roll or the paper towel like that, I actually feel like it removed easier off the B paper. So again, you know, good to know. If I was going to do something with more masking like that, maybe the B paper is the one that I want to choose. I don't know. But it definitely can handle the masking. That did not tear up the paper. There's no issue with that whatsoever. I would come in here and do some more touch up in here to work this area. Certainly put in some shadows and stuff like that. So I would paint some more on there. Again, if I do, I will take a picture and I will share this in the art group. I'm not going to do it now, just in the interest of time, because one, I've already painted this, and two, I don't need to keep you guys here forever. So it handles masking well. The colors move beautifully on the paper. More movement than my other cotton paper being the B cotton paper. So I'm getting more movement in the arches. And yeah, like you can see here, let me get this up nice and close for you. If you look right here, you see how that water started to bleed up into my sky. Normally when my paper is as wet as it was when I painted this in, if it was the B paper, I could have painted that and I could have made those kiss and I wouldn't have got that movement like I did. So there's definitely more movement here. Not a bad thing. It's just something to know. I think I lost a little bit of my rock when I removed my masking, that, you know, maybe I want to put some of that back in. Again, anything I do, I'll share with you guys in the art group. So if you're a member over there, you're going to see it. Definitely Facebook or MeWe, whichever is your preference, or join both. Whatever I post to one, I post to the other. So you're not going to miss things from me, but there are different people in both groups. So that's entirely up to you. I like the texture. Definitely more textured than the B watercolor paper. Definitely has a rougher texture, which I think is great. That is going to allow for some beautiful dry brush work. I'm looking forward to doing more of that and giving that a try. I knew I would like the paper. For sure, I knew I would like the paper. But my first impression, even afterwards, like it definitely feels, rougher. But I like it. I like it. I am really excited that I have it. I'm definitely going to play and experiment some more. So let's go back to that earlier comment that this is expensive paper, or it's more expensive paper than, say, like the B paper. If you're of the mindset like, I don't want to practice on my expensive paper, if you don't want to practice on your paper because it costs more, how are you going to learn and grow and understand what the paper can do, how it's going to react, and what kind of fun you can have with it if you don't practice and explore and throw some paint at that paper? I mean, I already did this painting, right? I already did this painting. I love this painting, but I can tell you, I like the way that the reflections have started in this one, even more so than this one. I'm liking it, but they definitely react so different to each other. Neither in a bad way. Neither one of them is negative. After having tried this, would I still say I recommend that you try that 100% cotton B watercolor paper? Absolutely. If Arches is a little too rough for your liking, try the B paper because it is definitely much smoother. I would say it leans way more, even though it says cold press, I would say it leans more towards a hot press texture. Definitely more so than, the Arches cold press. But I love the texture. I like texture. I like granulation. So I just had a feeling I was going to really enjoy working with this. We're going to do more. Now that I have that block, again, look at that. That's kind of stopped traveling now. But see how much you can see that blue? And it's still damp, but I wouldn't expect it's going to travel much further than that. So, one more time to share with you. Here is the block that I made. Right, my Arches block. This is like wanting to press up against here. There we go. I just folded the lid around. So now I have a 6x9 block. So this 9x12 pad came with 12 sheets. So I have 24 sheets, 6x9, because I did all of mine in half, of Arches paper to play with. I have twice the amount of paper now. Yes, it's smaller, but I have twice the amount, right? Is Arches a thicker paper? So if I compare the 140 pound, I'm trying to think what I painted on the 140 pound. Hold on. That's the 140. This is the 140. Okay, so the 140 of the B. Let me say that the back of the B is much smoother than the front. So the front, the cold press definitely has some texture on it, but it's not compared to the Arches. The back is smoother, whereas Arches, both sides, I feel a little bit more roughness here. That feels slightly smoother, but not as smooth as the back of the B. Like the back of the B 140 almost feels like, feeling it now after I've painted on it, it almost feels like a cardstock, but not quite as smooth. So there's that. They're very similar. Like the thicknesses feel very similar. Very similar. Actually, if I feel like the stiffness in it, the B 140 pound actually feels a little stiffer than the Arches. That's the way it feels to me. I mean, if you have both, weigh in the comments and let me know your opinion, but that's how it's feeling to me. But the thickness is definitely there. I would say that's pretty, it is definitely not one that I go, oh, that doesn't feel like it's 140 pound. I've had some that you say they're 140 and doesn't think so. But yeah, you see, I don't want to say goodbye to beach weather yet either. Jacqueline says, I don't want to say goodbye to beach weather. Has her first decent tan ever. Well, I don't want to yet either, clearly, because I was thinking fall and then this is what came out today, and that's okay. First impression, love it. Can't wait to do more on it. And I'm going to practice and I'm going to play. And like I said, I just did that on one piece of paper. Is that wasting the paper? No, not in my opinion. I will use like the rest of this to test something else out and that's fine. But I don't think that's a waste because that helped tell me what my paper's going to be able to do. And that's important. So don't be afraid to practice or throw paint at some of your paper. Even if it's a paper you've spent more money on, you need to know what you can do. So that said, we are getting really close to our goal. Please, if you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, click subscribe, ring the bell. You'll get notified when we're live. Thank you so much to all my patrons. I will see you live tomorrow on Zoom. And I will see all of you right here next Thursday at 3 p.m. Thank you to my mods, Tara and Joseph. I appreciate it. Their channels are linked below. Everything that I showed you here is linked in the description below. I will add the Mono Zero later on so that that's there as well if that's something that's interesting to you and you don't already have one. I'm going to pop another video up right here that you might like to watch next. Until next time, my friends, keep creating. I'm going to see you in a video real soon. And if you're on the replay, maybe you want to check out this one. And I'll see you there. Have a great rest of your day, guys, and a wonderful weekend. And talk to you later. Bye.